Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic, and it's time for a collection video. Back in 2016, at the end of that, I showed off all my 60s and 70s Fantastic Four issues that I have, and here we are at the 80s, only about a year and a half later. I'm doing this in two parts because the bulk, a great big bulk of my collection is obviously the 80s. It was a great time to be a Fantastic Four reader with the great John Byrne doing a big bulk of the era, some great stories, and I hope you enjoy looking at all the covers that I have with my Fantastic Four titles, and I throw in some information about the issues, what was going on in the titles, some first appearances, some topical things that might have been going on in the real world that kind of mirrored what was going on in the comic book. Hope you enjoy this. Let me know down in the comments section down below, and hopefully very soon we will have the second part of this 80s run. So stick your laptops, your computers, your TVs to full screen and enjoy the glorious covers of the Fantastic Four in the 80s. Okay, here we go with my 80s Fantastic Four. Obviously 80s dominated by one of the great FF writers, John Byrne, who also did a lot of the penciling, the artwork in these issues, and it's just always fantastic and glorious. So we got start off with issue 220, where there's some sort of worldwide blackout going on. This also contains a retelling of the origin of the Fantastic Four, just in case you hadn't already known from previous issues. Issue 221, and we've got the guys off in the North Pole to find out who's been responsible for all these blackouts. Issue 222, The Possession of Franklin Richards. And it's here that actually Reed Richard slaps his wife for the very first time. Yes, we have domestic violence rife amongst the FF. You might have almost noticed that the price of the comic went up this month from 40 cents to 50 cents. Issue 223, we've got a Salem 7 appearance, and we say goodbye to Agatha Harkness in this issue. Agatha Harkness was Franklin's nanny, I guess, and she had kind of magic, wizardly, witchy powers. We weren't going to see her again until issue 368, so keep your eye out for her. Issue 224, and we have a little brief break from John Byrne with Doug Munch and Bill Sienkiewicz on this issue. Little Easter egg actually in this book, as we see Franklin reading a copy of Moon Knight. And who just happened to be writing and drawing Moon Knight then? Yes, it was Doug and Bill, trying to get some free advertisement in what would arguably be a better selling title, that is the Fantastic Four. Issue 225, and we get a guest appearance from Thor. Jump at issue 227, and again another nod to Moon Knight. Doug and Bill making the most of this, and we take a little quick visit to Alicia Master's studio, and there's a sculpture of Moon Knight very prominently in the foreground. Issue 228, and we get the first appearance of this character, Ego Spawn. 229, and we get the first appearance of the Ebon Seeker and Fire Frost, some new villains for the Fantastic Four, and we're still getting some appearances. This time it's Jim Shooter, who has been sculpted by Alicia Masters, if you take a good look at her around her studio at her sculptures. Issue 230, obviously a guest appearance by the Avengers. We've got the Vision, Thor, Captain America. Oh, there's Scarlet Witch just there, and of course Iron Man. What else was there about this? I don't think there was anything. I thought there was. Issue 233, and John Byrne's back, and he's just basically practically doing everything. He's writing, he's drawing, he's inking. I think the only thing he doesn't do here is colour, but it's fantastic to have him back on the FF, and he stays around, and just in time for the 20th anniversary with issue 236. And as you can see, it's a big kind of crowd shot with all the superheroes, and you can see them all, but just make sure you don't miss out. Stan Lee, yes, he's there in the top right hand corner. It actually contains a short story at the back of this, because obviously it's a triple sized issue, but yes, there's a extra story at the back which is supposedly a new script from that late 70s Fantastic Four cartoon, and obviously written by Stan and drawn by Jack Kirby, so really cool addition. Issue 237, and we've got the new villain, Spinneret, and you can imagine what their powers are. Interesting to note about this particular issue, there was a panel within this. A character gets introduced, a kind of subsidiary character called Julie D'Agento, or Janello, sorry. And it's when this was first printed, there were visible nipples showing through her shirt. Well, we can't have that, can we, boys and girls? So on subsequent printings, that was removed. No, I don't have that issue. Mine is obviously, well, you can see it's also a British variant, I guess you'd call this, but obviously a later printing as well, so I don't have that. Issue 238, and we get the first appearance of Benz and Petunia. We always hear him making up these phrases, and Aunt Petunia is always added on the front or the end of the sentence. The joke about Doctor Doom on the front not being in this, it's a joke that goes way back to Strange Tales 122, and you may have noticed that there has been yet another price increase this year. 50 cents to 60 cents. We have issue 239. Nothing really of note here. I think this was Frankie Ray. I can't remember what her superhero name was. It wasn't Nova, was it? Was it Firestorm? Something like that. I always forget. We'll be seeing her coming up very soon. She does play, she does actually play quite a big part in upcoming issues, but again, there's nothing really of note in this particular issue. 240, great cover there by John Byrne and Terry Austin, guest appearance by the Inhumans, and we also get the birth of Quicksilver and Crystal's child. Yes, there was a strange kind of pairing between the two, and they became estranged, but obviously Crystal is with child. On to issue 241, again nothing really exciting going on, particularly of note in this issue. Another of those, the Fantastic Four lose their powers for an issue, but as I said, there's a Black Panther cameo in this particular one. Issue 242, we get a whole host of guest stars here. We can see Thor, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Daredevil, up against Terax the Untamed. And despite this one coming out in May, we've got the FF celebrating Christmas. Issue 243, the heroes battling Galactus, one of my favourite FF villains, only topped by, of course, Doctor Doom. Issue 244, and yes, that Frankie Ray comes back. I said she was very important. She does become the next Herald of Galactus in this issue. Issue 245, and we've got the first appearance of a villain called Avatar, and we discover for the first time the location of where the FF originally crashed when they'd soaked up all those cosmic rays. It was actually Ithaca in New York. Issue 246. John Byrne's still doing everything in a great, glorious cover with action in every, I guess you could call them panels, because you've got the kind of line coming through here. But we got Glynis Wein doing the colours on this particular issue. 247, another awesome Doom cover there. We've got the first appearance of Christophe Bernard in this issue. Christophe Bernard is Dr. Doom's adopted son, and he comes into play in a big way in upcoming issues. Issue 248, another Inhumans appearance. Issue 250, special 250th issue, twice as many pages, twice as many thrills. And we do seem to get a guest appearance from the X-Men, but actually these are Skrulls. And it's quite ironic that there is an end panel on this that Captain America was relieved that it wasn't actually a full-on Skrull invasion. But of course, who knows? This might have been a prophetic issue for the 2000s Secret Invasion storyline. It could have all been set up here in issue 250. This is a hot buck, folks. Issue 251, and we're into the negative zone. Yes, that negative zone that Reed said they would never go back to in issue 216. But, you know, action, adventure, comics. 252, one of my favourite Fantastic Four issues. Could be because of the novelty of it, but I just love this whole published in cinema scope, where all the pages were this way round rather than that way round. And again, I've noted this comic before for reasons about Fantastic Four and how much I much prefer their adventures off into space, outer space, inner space, the negative zone, all that stuff. The stuff that goes on in Earth, or on Earth I should say, is never that as exciting. They are like an exciting team who should be out in space, who should be going to different dimensions, and that's where I get most excited when I'm reading Fantastic Four. A couple of just, I won't say nondescript, but nothing particularly of note happens in them. Issue 253, those good old, well, I say floating heads, it looks like it's coming out of that big rock that some aliens are stood on. Issue 254, Manticora. And 255, it can't be, Reed is dead. No, he's not dead, but his mind is in the possession of the current villain, Tarantia Gestal, who actually dies in this issue. 256, and it's another apparent death, this time one of the villains, Annihilus, but obviously can't keep a good villain down. He's definitely going to be coming back later on, but I love, again, one of those great covers. Love the use of the yellow in the background, offset against the kind of the dark spacey black and the greens and the pinks. Just a really kind of in your face type cover. Issue 257, great Galactus full-on face cover there, with again the floating heads of the FF family. This issue we get the disappearance of Reed, which we'll find out where he's been in a couple of issues' time. Issue 259, and we have Sue pregnant again. It is revealed that will lead to tragedy in later issues. I'm sure I'll be telling you about that in this video. And issue 260, and it would appear that another presumed death happens here of the Fantastic Four's greatest adversary, Doctor Doom. But again, it's Doctor Doom. You're not going to kill him off. He's going to be back. Issue 261, and again, another comic packed full of cameos. This is a great thing about Fantastic Four. They were pretty much friends with every superhero you could think of, and they always made a cameo here and there. We've got the Watcher, obviously, Silver Surfer's in here, Submariner, Scarlet Witch, even Jarvis, the butler to the Avengers, makes an appearance. As you can see, they're all looking for Reed Richards. And this is where he is. This was part of Assistant Editors Month, something that Marvel used to do every year, where they were allowed to... Usually the stories were kind of silly or funny, but in this instance, this was quite an important storyline because this was obviously the trial of Reed Richards, and basically the whole universe, headed by, if I remember right, the Shire, the Empire, were accusing Reed Richards of letting Galactus live. Again, because these are kind of off-centre kind of storylines, the assistant editors used to be able to do kind of silly things, and in this particular one, Mike Higgins and John Byrne actually made appearances within this issue. Issue 263, and we have a brief appearance of a character called Alden Mass, who is this millionaire who's created a kind of theme park called Wonderland, but of course it's all bad news, and it's meant to be kind of a metaphor about kind of Walt Disney and Disneyland, which is obviously quite ironic because Walt Disney, yes, they just recently, well, back in, was it 2009, 2010, bought up Marvel as a company, so they won't be getting many more digs into Disney anymore and Walt Disney. 264, and the obvious homage here to issue 1 is pretty blatant, but still badass, as Mole Man's monster attacks Human Torch and the Thing. Issue 265, and we get She-Hulk joining the team. Oh, sorry, can you not tell by the green hair? Issue 266, and the first appearance of a villain called Charisma, and her superpower, well, her villainous power is that her sexual charm can enslave men. Yes. And Death to the Invisible Girl. What's that about? Issue 267, we get a Doc Ock appearance. Usually a big Spider-Man villain, but he's up against Reed Richards. And it is in this issue that Sue gave stillbirth to her second child, and in the upcoming issues that kind of leads to a very dark place for Sue. Issue 268, not my favouriteest of colours, and I always look at this and I can't ever really tell if it's kind of like a photo image that's been put on the paper and then these silly little lights come out, or it is actually drawn, but it's an awful cover nonetheless. Issue 270, this is Terminus's second appearance, because it was first appearance in 269, which I don't have. New villain. Issue 271, and we have, it's Reed Richards' birthday, of course it is, and we get this kind of quaint flashback story where they show it as it would have appeared in a 60s comic. So it has this kind of antiquated panelling structure that is obviously immediately noticeable from how the artists and the creators were laying out comics today. But it's still a nice, cute little story. Issue 272, and we get the first appearance of Nathaniel Richards, who is father to Reed, and also Warlord, who is Cassandra Richards from Earth 6311. No relation to Reed, but is, if I remember rightly, she was married to Nathaniel, hence the Reed surname. The only other thing of note about issue 272 is that the issue was dedicated to Sol Obrowski. He died sometimes before this was published. He was the inker on issue 3 and issue 4. We had issue 273, and we get the... again, there's nothing a great deal about this issue, obviously. These two confronting each other, a kind of family reunion, but there's a kind of strange one-page story at the back about the kind of origins of Rama Tut, and I'm trying to remember if he ever came to pass as a story. We'll find out as we go along, but I don't recall it. So it was just kind of an odd place for it to be, unless he was being used in some other issue. Issue 274, and this is a Thing specific storyline, him being on Battleworld at the time of this, so it was all kind of fitted in with the Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars storyline. If anyone remembers from reading Secret Wars, the Thing, Ben, he could change back to his human form at will, so he decided to stay behind on Battleworld after Secret Wars ended, so he could have some, I guess, some human time, and this is obviously a storyline set on there. Issue 275, and despite this character being called TJ Vance, he's like a reporter photographer, you can't help but see the similarities between him and Stan Lee there. This was one of those kind of, oh, this is quite topical kind of storyline, as we have this character TJ Vance trying to get nude photos of a She-Hulk while she's sunbathing on the top of, I think it's the Baxter building, but this is kind of a nod to a real news story that was going on at the time involving Vanessa Williams. Vanessa Williams was the first African-American Miss America winner, but just after she'd won, or sometime after, it was revealed that she'd done nude photos and was stripped of her award and her stature as Miss America, and there was a big scandal about it, and I think this was partly addressing that. Issue 276, and due to the tragedy of Sue's stillborn birth, Reed and Sue decide to find a house somewhere else, and this is their kind of house party, their home-warming party. And if you notice, for those of you who have this issue, all the guests that they have at the party, they're all based on kind of those Sunday newspaper strips. So you've got someone who looks a bit like Dick Tracy, you've got Blondie and Dagwood, you've got even Dennis the Menace's father in there. A strange cover, that kind of black and white negative deal. I don't quite know if it works, but not my favourite cover of a Fantastic Four issue. Okay, on to the last batch for this particular video, issue 277, great Mephisto cover here, where Franklin seems to kill Mephisto. He doesn't. Whoops. 278, and this does look to be a Doom story, but actually it's Christophe Bernard, Doc Doom's adopted son, and if I remember rightly, the Baxter building is destroyed in this issue. issue 279, and we get the first appearance of what is the third iteration of Mr. Unger, the Hate Monger, a Psycho Man creation, another of FF4's Fantastic Four's, big villains that gets used time and time again, and he is used to quite evil effect in the upcoming issues. Issue 280, and this is the first appearance of Malice, which is the dark side of Sue Richards. All this kind of hate and anger and revenge that has been building up after she miscarried and had a stillborn comes out here in issue 280, and it's here in issue 281 we see her in full Malice costume with an appearance by Daredevil. She becomes the new villain for FF. Doesn't last long. This is excuse me, issue 282, and we get a Secret Wars 2 tie-in, of which there will be plenty in the upcoming issues. But yes, great cover, all it zipping down into the central point, even the little kind of Marvel block up there, which I think's really good. And issue 283, and kind of Psycho Man comes to the fore in a big way, and torturing Sue and in turn the rest of the FF, in this case Human Torch and Reed Richards. 284, and while this is kind of what happened to She-Hulk, because Psycho Man obviously didn't see it fit to abuse and torture her, she's been mining away underneath in the bowels of the Psycho Man's lair, but this is the issue where Sue Richards changes from being Invisible Girl to Invisible Woman. Female empowerment. Yes, so she becomes the Invisible Woman. Issue 285, it's another Secret Wars 2 tie-in, as you can see, and another FF member just can't go on. I'm finished, I can't be around you guys, I can't be the Human Torch anymore. Of course he comes back. Issue 286, and with an appearance of the Uncanny X-Men. You were going to get it co-written by one of their greats, which was Chris Claremont, of course. Issue 287. This is Peggy MacArthur. This is kind of a mind swap storyline featuring Doctor Doom. If you know you were blind to the fact that he's there in the back, you must have known that he was going to be part of this crazy story. 288, yes, another Secret Wars 2 tie-in. This time we've got Doctor Doom versus the Beyonder. Issue 289, it can't be, not you. Yes, it is the return of a big villain for the FF. It was Annihilus. Issue 290, and it looks like we're going to lose Reed again. Oh no! But we've got Reed battling Annihilus in the negative zone. But fortunately they do rescue him, and in 291, which again, clearly see this is an homage to Action Comics 1. They've actually gone back in time to, I think it's the 1940s, late 1940s, I think, if I remember rightly. And, well, we don't know how, we don't know why, but Nick Fury's in here as well, and they've come to kill Hitler! Issue 292. Yes, Nick Fury wants to kill Hitler, and the FF have a bit of a moral dilemma. Do they allow him to do that, or do they not? Issue 293, and this was actually the final issue for John Byrne. And I thought that was almost a fitting place to stop with issue 294 as Roger Stern takes over the FF. So I hope you tune in for part 2. I don't know when that will be out, when I'll show you the rest of my 80s FF collection. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.